Educating, informing, serving. Fact TV, keeping government honest.
I need to call the meeting to order. Jigs, would you lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Are there any adjustments to the agenda?
I would only ask that I make a report to the agenda. I do have Miranda McDonald here from RHR. If we could somehow push her up, that would be appreciated. Towards the beginning.
She's basically almost right at the beginning.
Okay.
We've got just a quick comment and then the minutes quick and then that. So I think probably we can put her where she is and then we'll take her immediately first, if that's okay. Is that okay with everybody?
Yes.
Okay. All right. Unless we've got a lot of communication. Communications and public comment. Before I start, I want to recognize our UVM Outstanding Teachers of the Year. We recognized them in the fall, but they were mentioned at the WNESU meeting as being recognized at UVM and taking part with that. So that's Julie Sines and Mary Lou, and I have a card for them. Just so that you know, it's a pleasure that we could have two in our school district that are being recognized by UVM. Okay. We'll review and approve the board minutes for March 7th first. Are there any corrections to March 7th? Okay, if not, the minutes will stand as written. March 21st minutes. Any corrections? Hearing none, those minutes will stand as written also. So those have been approved. All right, now we'll go to R. Smith report.
Did you ask whether there were any other?
Pardon? Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't ask that. Were there any other communications? I did skip that.
Easy to skip.
Thank you. Appreciate that, Chris. I don't see any, so
Don't see any on here. So.
we will move to the R. Smith report if she's.
Yes.
Hi, Miranda.
Hello, how is everybody this evening?
Having trouble hearing you.
Okay, let me see, volume up. That better?
Much
Thank
better,
you.
thank you.
Okay, good. I also have Brittany Gilman on with us tonight.
Oh, hi, Brittany. Good to see you.
I know we went over the short report, I believe in, was it February or March? Those numbers have not changed to the audit report. Did you want me to go over those numbers again, or did you have any specific questions related to the full audit?
What's the pleasure of the board members?
I had some questions on the draft of the management letter that I think apply to Rockingham. One item that we've, since I've been back on the board, it's been very confusing is in the, and it might get to a couple of the things that you've referred to in the management letter, and that is the assessments for food service. How the district, and particularly in my case, the Rockingham district, is assessed for the food service budget. Since I've been on the board, we've received, well, probably 4 or 5 updates to the budget, year-to-date budget reviews, and the food service shows at a minus 271,000. Our budget was, I think, 86,000 for food service. And through March, or the statement the most recent statement I've gotten in March, it shows our food service budget is negative 271,000. So we've spent 271 plus 86. So I think it gets to assessments and somehow getting reimbursed, or how do we get reimbursed for the food service assessments?
So it sounds like you're looking at FY22 reports when you're making that comment. Is that correct?
That's correct. That's a year-to-date budget, but I'm assuming that this was something that, this is a carryover of the financial staff. And I know in the audit numbers were more in line with the budget.
Mm-hmm.
But the methodology by which this account is balanced, it's obviously an account where there's a lot of revenue that's brought in. But when do we see it in our interim statements? I would think we should.
Yeah, so
You've raised in your management letter issues of assessments. And,
yeah.
So
So I think that wasn't specifically related to the food service program. But that doesn't mean that there may not be issues. I mean, if you look at the audit report, it does not appear that was an issue related to food service. But typically the way that we would see something like this work is that food service is held at the SU, and the food service fund is a separate fund from the general fund in the SU that is largely funded by sales and mostly by federal and state reimbursements. And there's also some language talking about how the food service fund is not supposed to be in a deficit position. So the way that I see it done most commonly is that there's an estimated amount in the budget, and I've seen it done different ways, but it's often based on, either the same type of assessment that is, the same methodology for whatever you do for the other assessments, or in some cases there are ways to segregate what the operations are at each district. So I'd have to defer to Miranda on how that's handled at Wyndham Northeast. But usually there would be an estimated amount that would be needed in order to balance the budget or balance the fund. And then if the fund was in a deficit position, then an additional assessment would be needed from the general fund because the food service fund is not supposed to be in a deficit. So having not seen your reports for FY22, my first question would be, is it coded correctly? So is it really a food service assessment, or is it a different type of assessment? And then we can go from there. And I don't know if you have further insight, Miranda, on that.
For FY22, I do not.
Or in general about how their assessments have functioned in the past for food service.
Their assessments have functioned, like you said, similar to the other assessments where each school was just assessed a certain dollar amount, and that's what was sent to the SU. And then a reconciliation was done at the end of the year, or supposed to be done at the end of the year. So unfortunately, they're not assessing during the year. So that could be why you're seeing such a difference in FY22. But also, like Brittany said, we haven't looked at current year information to know what's actually happening.
Okay, but you didn't pick it up in previous years, how we could be already through March assessed like $350,000 from the food service contract when our budget's 86?
Because in previous
It
years, I
wasn't
would
an
say
issue.
it wasn't an issue. So it sounds like something is either miscoded or they haven't done everything they need to in FY22.
Okay. I don't know, Andy, we had brought this up at the last meeting. I don't know if you've got any clarification for us.
We are continuing to try and, I will say, right the ship. There's a lot of things that are coded incorrectly that we're doing journal entries to try and get them in the correct areas. As both Brittany and Miranda pointed out, there hasn't been a mechanism to do the assessments at a regular basis. So we're putting that in place so that we can work on those to make sure that that assessment's happening throughout the year as opposed to just once at the end of the year. So we just went ahead and did the substitute assessments. So at the next Cognos blast that comes out, that should be seen in there. So
Well, we get this report, Andy, and it
that's
does show
that's called-
assessments.
That's the Cognos.
It shows assessments on all of the accounts. It shows,
So how much?
encumbrances and assessments.
So how much does it show for substitutes for Bellows Falls Middle School?
This is the SU.
Just yes.
This is the SU
Okay.
report, okay?
But
This is what,
but this is Rockingham, so I'm asking you about.
no, this is the SU assessment of Rockingham.
Okay. So I just don't have that report in front of me, Jig, so I can't, I mean, I can ask.
Well, like I said, I think I don't see any glaring issues in the other accounts of year-to-date expenditures
So-
plus.
The best I can do is go back and ask Glenn and Casey why that assessment is there.
Okay,
And I mean, we've been focused, we go through and methodically try to look at different places where the biggest concern is and trying to right those problems because there are some really big ones that are coming up. We've been focusing on the grants because we're being fiscally audited by the Agency of Education at the end of this year. And so we're trying to make sure the grants are accurate because if the grants are not accurate, items can be disallowed, which will cost the district money. So that's been our major focus, is to make sure that the grants are in order so that we're not losing any money.
well, I certainly wouldn't disagree with that.
So that has been our major focus. We've also just noticed and identified there have been some banking accounts with payroll and banking that need to be addressed. So I can tell you that the folks in the business office are working on the weekends right now. I mean, we're pumping out trying to get things done. It's just a major lift to try and go back and adjust the problems that were created well before everyone came on board, and we're just methodically trying to do it. And I think one of the things Casey Boyle Eldridge is really trying to do is just systematically go through it so that we're making sure we're not missing things. But
Who is Casey?
She is our consultant,
Okay.
CPA. So she's not a CPA, but she's working in the accounting area. So
The other big area for the.
Before you go,
okay.
let me ask a clarifying question on that. And I may be misinterpreting, that's why I'm asking. So are you saying that some of this may be grants that have not been applied?
No.
Or is this?
I can't speak to the food services piece. So I guess what I'm saying is that we are going through, we're finding that things are there's teachers that are assigned to the wrong codes. There are lots of things that are assigned to wrong codes. And so we're constantly having to go through. Every time you find one of those, you have to do a journal entry. So there's paper trail and a narrative for why you're making these changes. It takes time. It can't all just happen. That's the problem, is it's taking an enormous amount of time to go through it.
Okay.
Yeah, in my experience, it would be uncommon for an assessment account to be that overspent at this time of the year. there are times when an additional assessment is needed, particularly in the areas of special education and food service where you're kind of always adjusting based on your actual. But my immediate thought would be that there's a miscoding to that line, but without looking at it, I can't say for sure.
Okay, the other, I won't belabor it, but the other major issue that, concern that I have is cash. If everything has been so messed up, as you indicate in this report, and of course, we had a preliminary feedback from you on December 10th, I think it was. This codifies it a little bit, but the concern I have is reconciliation of cash by district. And with all of these problems and issues and failures on the part of the accounting staff, how do we get a cold comfort or warm comfort on the cash position? I mean, are we reconciling cash? Did we reconcile cash last year by town? Was that done religiously and faithfully every month, or?
So no, it was not done. So we did have our firm did have a contract to assist or prepare bank reconciliations for a certain period of time because they were not being done regularly. So we did do that, and I believe that went through May, and then the June bank reconciliation was done by staff. So our position in the audit is that we believe that cash is fairly stated for Rockingham and all the other reports as well as of fiscal year end. I think that there are still some difficulties getting bank reconciliations done timely. So there is always the concern, and the reason to do bank reconciliations timely is to avoid material misstatement, right? So it's to have a good sense of what your actual position is at any point in time. Right. So in terms of the audit report, we can say that we believe it's fairly stated as a fiscal year end, but if you pull a report for right now, we can't express an opinion on that.
No, well, I'm talking about December 31st, or rather June 30th of 2021, yeah. Your audit report, because, yes. But in your opinion, as of June 30th, cash was reconciled to each of the town's accounts.
Yes.
Okay. All right. Well, of course, the other part of a management letter is the district needs to respond to it, needs to write a report addressing how they've addressed these various issues. And obviously, we don't know when that's going to happen, but obviously, we got to have a business manager first, and
we are working on that, and we have addressed some of those issues and started to put things in place. I mean, what is concerning is that in the management letter, they repeatedly state that this is a reoccurring issue, and it was part of the management letter that was provided to the boards last year. So what we're trying to clean up are issues that are long-standing issues, and why they weren't addressed last year, I cannot speak to that.
Well, you've got a pretty good idea.
Yeah.
But what I'm saying is the boards were well aware of this issue last year.
Well, being new to the board,
that's why I'm just saying the boards were well aware of these issues.
No, I think there's a lot of blame to go around. I mean, certainly one like myself could look at this and say, where was the board during this period? Because it's, if you're not seeing information, or if the information isn't looking correct, like this food service thing for, right. Okay, And it concerns me because it's like we've been charged 350, according to this, 350,000 for an $86,000 budget. So it's not okay. And, but it also doesn't rise to the level of reconciling your grant monies. So I don't want to distract any effort in that regard because we have a lot of grants. And,
No, I suspect that, and this is a total speculation, but that's what it's costing right now, and nobody is, as they said, gone back and done the assessment to move the money, you know, on the line items and just move them back. So much like the subs, where everything's being charged to the SU and not hitting the individual lines, it's hitting that individual line right now as opposed to being parsed out because things get spread out so much. So it's something that we really, it's in the management letters, is looking at how do you consolidate some of these things so that they're not being paid out by the individuals. Because like IT is another one, right? Because instead of consolidating it at SU level, we're spreading it out amongst the different districts. Parts of people are spread out throughout the district as opposed to consolidating it all under SU.
but I think what is consolidated under SU is being charged. I mean, there are, you know, like, I don't know, 15 different accounts at the SU that provide charges to the districts. So that was a little bit of confusion over that comment in the audit letter. But your issue is, should you consolidate everything? Should you drag every IT item out of the town budgets and put it in the SU? And, you know, I don't like that approach, but you can make it work either way. But anyway.
And I totally agree with Jigs. We've been asking for monthly reconciliations and monthly expenses versus revenues for at least a year.
But this
At least when
271.
Flora started, and so we really need to be sure that we're getting that, and I think you're working at that
Well,
and
no,
starting to
you
do
got
it.
one a
That's
couple
what
of
I'm
weeks
saying.
ago.
Yeah, we did.
And
You're
it's not
starting to do that.
100%, and then, but we wanted to release it because people have been asking for it, and we knew it was gonna offer questions. And then what Glenn went back and did was take that and do you know, include revenue so that you would have some idea, which is where we got to the 1.8 as a fund balance, but with the caveat of what you're just bringing up, which is it's not 100%, so don't count on 1.8, right? That's gonna fluctuate. So, I mean, you know, Glenn was a little hesitant to say, go ahead and release it, but he knew that people, you know, needed to see it, so, I mean.
And we appreciate his doing that. It's just that I think if we can keep working on that, the board will start feeling better about getting reports and knowing where we stand, which is important.
And the final thing is as of the June 30th, 2021 audit, as far as Rockingham is concerned, you found no fraud or theft or anything like that that should be brought to our attention.
So we did not uncover fraud. I think it's important to note that this wasn't a fraud audit. So while our procedures are designed to test controls, and certainly if we had found suspicion of fraudulent activity, we would have followed that thread. So it's possible that fraud exists that we didn't uncover because it's not a fraud audit. However, we didn't find anything that we believed was fraudulent activity or that needed to be investigated further in that way.
Thank you.
Okay, other questions?
All set.
All set, okay. Gee, is there anything else that you need to tell us, Miranda?
The only thing I would say is, and as Andy's alluded to, the group that's in the business office currently, Shirley, Jason, Marlene, they're, like Andy said, they're working weekends. Casey has been contracted. She's working weekends to try to get your current year corrected and up to date as soon as possible, and work through some of these continuing issues. So I do want to thank the current people who are there for their continued diligence in working to get the statements correct.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Okay. All right, I guess we're set. We thank you very much for being here to answer our questions and getting the final report and the management letter to us. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. I know it's been a bit of a long road, so appreciate your patience with us as well, because we know it's definitely not easy from the outside looking in and kind of wondering what the holdup is. So really appreciate working with Andy and his team, and just appreciate you having us back here to give you the state of the state one more time.
We're looking at next year being a lot earlier in the year.
That is the hope. Absolutely. Have a nice night, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate you. Okay, next thing on there is superintendent's update.
So just a few things. So with the ESSER funds, ESSER 1, that is the first of the 3 grants, is scheduled to sunset September of 22. The state has indicated that sometime in May is when we're going to be we're going to kind of get a freeze on asking for new strategies and whatnot. So we're working to finalize what we've already spent out of that grant. Some of it has to go into just what we're talking about, making sure we've got the right things coded to the right places so that we can go through and we can, whatever money we haven't spent, we can go ahead and try and grab a strategy so we're not giving money back to the state. So that's one of the things we're really working on right now. Just to make the board aware, we are partnering with the Keene Swamp Bats. They're the NECBL baseball team out of Keene, and it's a collegiate summer league for baseball players. And we're partnering with them with their Reading with Ribby program, and all 4 of the elementary schools. So, but here Saxons River and Central are involved. And the students are challenged to read 18 times for 20 minutes. It's not designed to be a huge, it's to encourage kids to read and to get them going with reading. But the students, they record it on a bookmark, they get a bookmark, they record their times. And then the students who have completed it, they get a t-shirt and they get invited to the game. They get to go out on the field, they parade them around, they get to stand out there with the players and whatnot. And one of the things we're looking at doing, especially because this is our first year, is looking at how we can help with transportation for families to get to Keene, because some of our families, we don't want anything to inhibit them from being in the program. And typically the students go out somewhere mid-June, so it's like a June 15th game or something like that, where they get to go out. We've heard a lot of positives on kids getting really involved and really jazzed and like almost competitive. So I mean, if having kids competitive about reading is a bad thing, I guess I'll take it. But I'm also working with the president of the Swamp Bats to see if we might be able to get a couple players to come. One of the things, having been a resident of Keene, and my kids went through the school system, a lot of times what they'll try and do is have the players go and meet the kids and kind of come out as a sign things and stuff like that. So we're really trying to see what we can do. What I learned coming into this role is that there are so many of our community members who actually go to those games, and so therefore making that connection I thought was a good thing. So we're a little behind, but I think the principals and the folks have gotten really caught up, so it's a good thing. So, some open positions, just to keep you guys aware, these are more kind of like the SU level, but we're finalizing a candidate for our Director of Innovation and Instruction. We hope to have an announcement soon. We're just working out some details. Sarah Doran joined us starting today. She's our new Director of After School Programming. And so we're looking forward to her expertise and what she can do for our programming and to build it even more. Heather Marquez joined us last week. She's a homeschool liaison, and she's joined our family engagement team and kind of rounding it out. She came on board as Jesse Hall left. Carrie Newton moved up into Jesse Hall's position, which left a vacancy. So it's not a new position, it's just fulfilling vacancies. But we're really excited. She's already jumped in 3 days. She joined us last week, and on Wednesday, she's already made connections. And our whole point there is helping families and making those connections with school. As far as summer programming, Kim Budzik is going to be running our Westminster Grafton site. Heather Murphy Hicks, who's a first grade teacher at Central, she's going to be running our site for Central and Saxons River. And then Sierra Patterson, who's an administrative assistant here, is going to be running the middle school site. We are combining Central and Saxons River this year, partially because of concerns of where we might be with the classrooms and if there's what major construction might need to happen that I think Laura's going to update us on. We want to make sure that we are not inhibiting that in any way and make, so we're bringing the two sites together. And then what we're looking to do is have brochures go home to families by April break. We have teachers who are recommending students based on data for loss of learning. So we're going to invite those students first, and then we'll open it up for others. It will be free of charge to all families. So, emergency planning, we're going just to update you guys. We have our normal once a month meeting with the administration. So we're going to be meeting at the end of April. We had to move because of spring break, but there all of the folks are, I've asked the different principals to bring their plans. We're going to review them and then move forward with that. And we have April break is going to be April 18th through the 22nd. And then just strategic planning, just to keep people informed. We're working with Focus Schools, and that is a group that we've been working with since last year on our recovery team and developing our strategic plan. That also has involved a vision statement and a theory of action. And so we just met today as a quarterly group, and we'll have another meeting in June. It's open to any member of our community to join us, so we'll have that posted. But it's some really great work that'll help us to complete our SIP, which is our continuous improvement plan. And then we're also planning a meeting at the end of April, early May. I'm gonna look at how I can fit it in with board meetings right now, just because they're every week, it seems. So we're trying to find a date where we can fit that in, but a community meeting where we can get the community together, offer childcare, and just bring folks in to talk about it. We're also, we partnered with a group called Thought Exchange, and that is an online crowdsourcing platform that allows us to kind of do focus groups that are online. So we can ask questions, get feedback, as opposed, if people can't come to a meeting, just a way to get more information out there and get more feedback from people. So there'll be some stuff coming out to our community soon. And then I have, I'll be providing board members with just a guidebook on guidebook for board members that includes a link to Robert's Rules, so we don't have to purchase things. And that should be coming out this week. That is all I got. Don't know if there's any questions.
I do. Is the director of after-school programming a new position?
No, that's a position that was created with ESSER funds, but it's also been created and been around, excuse me, was around under the 21C grant. So Oriana, that I can't remember,
Bias.
yeah, so she used to be in that position, and then where she focused pretty much on the middle school only. But then the Westminster grant was written to include Grafton when it became the UE. And so those two grants then were combined, and Oriana's position was supposed to oversee just those grants in that position. And then the previous administration added in a layer of out-of-school program director that was doing summer and after-school programming, and that was Ellie Wenzel. And so you had some layers there. Oriana chose to leave at the beginning of the school year, and then Ellie left in the middle of the school year. And so we've got some great folks pitching in. I mean, you know, Paxton at Central. Carrie's been helping out at Central, Sierra here, and Laura, when her administrative assistant was running that site, and when he left, Laura has stepped up, and someone else has also helped out. Their name's out of my head right now. So a lot of people have helped to kind of keep it going, and Sarah is going to come in and she'll oversee all the sites, so the 21Cs and but the knowledge she brings, I think, will be really great to help organize it and stuff. And we're having her come on now so she can get up to speed on the 21C grant, so that next year we're in good shape. Yeah.
Oh, that's exciting. That's really exciting.
So it's consolidated about at least two of the positions together.
Correct, and it's being funded through 21C. So it's,
All right. Any other questions for Andy? Okay. Do we have anything else under finance, expenses actual or revenues, jigs in
Well, just-
particular?
The food service thing has to be clarified.
Yeah.
I've already reached out.
It's
while
been,
we're sitting
it's
here.
been at that 271 for 5 months, you know, so it's, something is, and obviously, the incoming funds are not being credited, so that the draw, it seems to me that the draw ought to be just the 86,000, that you shouldn't be overdrawing, you know, but anyway, that's the one glaring thing that stands out.
Okay, thank you. WNESU update. I'm going to call on you, Mr. Kitty. Put you on the spot.
Yes. Did we have one of those meetings?
Yep,
Yeah, we did.
the 23rd.
So, well, the teacher's contract was approved, which was a big item for that meeting. The committee assignments, I guess, are in the process of being made. I've been taking careful notes, Jim, because since I'm now the WNESU treasurer, whether I wanted to be or not, but I'm there.
I nominated.
Yeah, and I did meet our new business managers, Jack. Jim.
Joseph.
Don't say that. So I have talked with him a little bit and hoping to spend some quality time with him and sort of, you know, be looking at these issues of obviously we can't, it's hard to deal with your local budget if you have no confidence in what is being assessed to you out of the SU. So I hope that that will be a good partnership anyway. As far as other business at that meeting, I'm sort of drawing a blank. I mean, it was mostly,
It was basically, it's setting up
yeah.
The
setting up
organizational.
the organization.
Organizational meeting, yeah.
And the committees, keep in mind, the committees are basically, you've been appointed to those committees by your local boards. So you're already on committees for the most part for there. And unless there's something else you want to be on in addition to that, but we did appoint, we did not put anybody on buildings and grounds, which we can appoint somebody to the buildings and grounds from here as well. If you would like that to happen. Knowing that we're talking about and answer some of the buildings and grounds ideas, I definitely would want to be on that assignment. But if anybody else wants to be, if you let me know, I'll be glad to appoint you to that as well from here. But we have budget and finance. Jim and I are on the budget and finance for the SU. The recovery team, I think, was listed on there, and Bill is also on that one with me. And Jim,
Well,
you're on
Jack-
the SU audit committee.
Jack Breyer asked the members to write him an email, asking what committees you'd like to be on. So, I don't know, I wrote him an email, but
Okay.
We haven't heard
Okay.
from him yet.
we haven't heard from him, so.
But I also reminded him at the thing that they are assigned, basically, from each of the boards. And so, but he can also put additional members on there from the WNESU as well. So I'm glad if you did that. Like Megan, you're on the SU, the policy committee for that as well, and I am too. So a lot of those we have assignments from, but you can also get an assignment from the WNESU if you're one of the members assigned to that. Okay, anything else on the WNESU? Anybody, Jigs, did you want to add anything?
No, I'm good.
All right, committee updates. Andy already talked about ESSER, which is on here, and that they're going to do a community survey in April. And like he said, we talked about vision statement today, and then we talked about the vision statement that we had was basically the WNESU partners with the community to inspire and promote lifelong learning. And I may have left a few words out of that, but that's the essence of it. And we looked at adding, if we wanted to add any words to that or not. And then we looked at core values. Some of the things that we particularly want students to feel at any level, kindergarten through high school, as they prepare for lifelong learning out there and prepare for future life. And some of the things were in particular welcoming and safe, open to exploring ideas, prepared to be ready for the world. We cared about them. They wanted to be in school. They were excited about learning in ways that maybe our committees could look at making them excited and bringing them in, and what we need to do for next year, in particular to recover from everything that we've been here. So those are the items that were on there. So that was recovery team today. Negotiations support team is probably going to meet the last Wednesday of the month to start negotiations. So we're looking at I think it's the 27th.
You gonna go back to principals, or?
I skipped principals.
Yes, you did.
Thank you, Jigs.
Well, because I
I'm sure
had a question on ESSER,
Yeah.
but I didn't want to eliminate the.
Okay, did you have a question for me at this point?
No, why don't we just go with and
Okay,
then we'll go
so,
back.
and because I won't go back to committees unless you.
Oh,
have a
okay, well,
question.
then what I would like to know is, and certainly it's foolish to do it more than once, but I would like at the next, or maybe the next SU meeting, a financial update on the ESSER grants. What's been committed where, what's to be committed, et cetera. And then a general update on on how the bureaucracy that the state has set up is working, or not. Because it's a lot of money, and
Yeah.
you know, if you can't commit to it because the bureaucracy doesn't let you get it accomplished, then it's not a good situation. So
Andy's done an extreme amount of work on that, yes, because it goes back and forth. So you're right. So we'll put that on for next time, because otherwise it'll make tonight really long, if that's okay.
well, it could be the SU committee that does it too. So you don't have to
I'm
repeat
happy
it.
to do it. I did it last month. I'll do it again. I mean, I did a report last, what the day was?
Yeah, you did.
I was in Myrtle Beach. I remember doing it from Myrtle Beach, so, but I'm happy to put a report together again.
Great.
Okay. All right. Okay, back to principals. I apologize. I kind of just skipped right over that when I looked at my agenda here in front of me. Which one of you wants to start?
Can I, before we start, can I please let Cindy Stockwell in? 'Cause
Absolutely, yes.
One of the things
Okay.
we found, just so everyone knows, is that sometimes the dings or something seem to take over, so I just want to let her in.
So if you let her in, and then we can, or do you prefer I call on one of you? All right, Laura, let's let you start this time. I think Sue started last time, so we'll let you start this time, Laura. Or I could be wrong.
Maybe we should do rock, paper, scissors or something. It's good to see everyone. So let's see, our enrollment is at 75. We are getting a new kindergarten student on Monday, so we'll be back up at 76. Just a few classroom happenings, just some highlights. So kindergartners started a new unit on seeds, and they're super excited to plant and observe, draw, and read all about seeds. First and second grade just finished a March Madness competition, which is super cool. In fact, our second grade teacher dressed up as a referee and had a basketball hoop on her neck, and kids got to take shots. But the goal of it was really all about reading. And so they read and discussed 2 books each week, and then they voted on their favorite and compared totals, etc. Third grade just started a new unit learning about the Abenaki, and fourth graders are working hard on their Wax Museum character project. So I can't wait to see those come to life. SBAC assessment, third and fourth graders finished the 2 math assessments last week and began the first of 2 ELA assessments today. And I am super, super proud of them for persevering through a very rigorous test. So very impressed with their work. A huge thank you to the Bells Falls Rotary Club for providing SRES with some emergency clothing for students who need a change of clothes during the day but may not have one with them. Also, Girls on the Run started last week, and Nurse Jen is coaching. And a huge thank you to Chroma for significantly offsetting the registration fee, which was over $100 this year for our family. So it was very, very reasonable for students to be able to participate because of Chroma. We sent out a school climate survey. In fact, all of the schools in our SU have, and it was distributed to staff and families, and our third and fourth grade students will participate this week. We're going to use this data as part of our building of our school-wide plan. And then speaking of our school-wide plan, I have asked for both family and staff volunteers to serve on the school-wide plan committee, which will meet this spring to review data and develop strategies to address needs. So if any board members would like to participate, you are more than welcome to do so. I think we're planning to meet from 8 to 8:45 in the morning is how I've advertised it. We'll be having a Spirit Week, April 11th through the 15th. Prior to April break, we'll have some theme days and a classroom coin challenge with the proceeds going to our PTO. And students will enjoy a special performance on Friday. April 13th is an early release day, and it'll be SRES's turn to participate in Handle with Care, which Andy is facilitating and is a trained trainer. I think you've heard it before, but I'll say it again because it's pretty spectacular. So the schools within Wyndham Northeast have pooled their family engagement funds to bring Lynn Lyons to the high school on May 11th at 6 p.m. She's going to do a presentation called Helping Your Family's Emotional Health, Do's and Don'ts as we move forward. So we're super excited about that. There'll be a flyer going out and a registration form. We'll be offering childcare and transportation and a free book by Lynn Lyons too. So that'll be something to look forward to. And then the building update, before I do this, the person who is coordinating our after school program is Tina Smith. So I just wanted to, Andy had mentioned that I was doing some of it, which I was, but Tina has really taken over most of the responsibilities at this point, and I'm super grateful for her work on that. So building update. So we did get the report from American Indoor Air Quality Assessment Services. And Andy and Jen DeBell and Rick Schumann and Bert and I met last Monday to discuss the report and create a plan moving forward. It was decided that Jim would create an RFP given the recommendations in the report and essentially put the work out to bid. The scope of the work primarily includes removing insulation and then thoroughly drying out the spaces that the insulation occupied. And we also decided that we would bring in a contractor to assess the damage to the wood floors in those two classrooms and determine and have a contractor determine whether or not they could be refinished, because you can only do that so many times with a wood floor. And Bert had seemed to remember that we were nearing the end of our lifespan for our wood flooring. So that person will determine whether or not we can refinish or if they would need to be replaced as well, because there's some bowing and one of the rooms actually, it's like I don't think it's an illusion, but it feels like you get a little nauseous when you walk in just because it rolls, the floor actually rolls. So 3rd and 4th grade will continue to use the music and art room. Our art will be continue to be in the gym, and then music will push into classrooms as we've been doing for the past few weeks. And then lastly, just some upcoming dates. Report cards go home on the 15th. April break is the 18th through the 22nd, and then school resumes on the 25th. Any questions?
Bill?
Hi, Laura. Thank you for the report. So there is a music program at Saxons River?
Yes.
Of course, yes. 2 days
No,
a
the
week.
reason I asked is there's no staff listed under music for Saxons River.
Oh,
It's shared.
It's shared with Central?
Yeah.
it is,
Okay.
yes. So we have music 2 days, and Central has Elisa Dano 3 days.
Okay,
4.4, I think, at Saxon's River, right?
Correct.
that makes sense.
Yeah.
And when the students study the Abenaki, do they visit the burial sites locally? Is that part of the study, or, because it's kind of unique, their burial arrangements?
Yeah, that's a great question. Well, we have been learning a different way the last 2.5, 3 years. And so I will definitely bring that. Our 3rd grade teacher is new this year, but I will definitely bring that point to her attention. Thank you for mentioning that.
No, because evidently there are 3 burial sites on either side of the river, and all 3 point to each other. The orientation has a significance to the tribe. Anyway, thank you.
Thank you for mentioning that.
Any other questions? No, if not, thank you, Laura. We really appreciate you reporting out to us. It sounds like there's some exciting things there.
Definitely, thank you.
Mary?
Good evening. So please forgive my voice. I have still a cold, but I want to just pull up my notes. Hold on one second, sorry. And so Central is down 2 students, actually. We lost 2 to Jamaica, Vermont. And so we're at 152 students. So that means 29 kindergartners, 22 first graders, 33 second graders, 28 third graders, and 40 fourth graders. So we're hoping to be obtaining a new student possibly soon, but we're still working on details with that family. So we're working on our farm to school community garden. So we will have an upcoming actually outdoor staff meeting on April 27th from 3 to 4. And so we're hoping to work with the Rotary Club. They may be sending some volunteers to help us prep our beds, get them ready for planting. And then we also are working with our representatives from Farm to School and then Food Connects. And they've been really instrumental in making sure our Farm to School program is up and running. We're doing a lot of taste testing, a lot of trial recipes, things like that. So there is a closing with Shelburne Farms on May 20th. And so Judy Veresby, Kate Kane, Jody Hauser, Erica Frank, Peter Laurie have been really working hard on making sure that our students are getting down and dirty into the garden and getting this project going. So we appreciate their support on that. As Andy was mentioning, we were pleased to report that Heather Murphy-Hicks is appointed as coordinator for the SRES and CES summer program. So families, more details will be coming about the program, but it is based on the recovery needs and teacher recommendation for the student needs. So there will be a limited attendance number as we focus on the academic needs for both schools. Sadly, we've been affected by the stomach flu. We've had a lot of students and staff who've been out in the last couple of weeks. So just be mindful of this. It does hit quick and hard. So if you just want to make sure you're sanitizing and still being safe as well. So it is a quick going flu. We are working on our staffing needs and grant funds for next year. So we're reviewing the positions. And as Andy's mentioning, was looking at the needs across the whole school and making sure that we're not leaving any grades out and prioritizing for where we need for our data. We are looking at, as we mentioned on the 13th, our professional development plan, the focus on social emotional needs and how our responsive classroom state of the building report can be used for setting expectations, reviewing records, and looking at videos of students in action and showing what our expectations look like in the building. We are also want to thank our students each month. We have morning announcers. We have a student ambassador, a morning greeter, a scuff buster, an art room helper. And so Mrs. Hauser works closely with our students to do the morning announcements over the PA system, but really getting them a sense of community, and students have to apply for these positions and then be chosen each month. So we really appreciate the students looking out for those new opportunities across the school. We have Paraprofessional Day on the 6th, so we were lucky to have some amazing support personnel. So we're recognizing them with some special treats on Wednesday. So thank you, Paras, for everything you do. We'll keep our school up and running, and we appreciate that. Finally, it's as mentioned before about the board expenditures. We're definitely looking at the accounts, making sure that those are up to date. We have some final spend downs in some certain areas, but as you know, April is now upon us. There's not a lot of funding left across all the budget line items. Just a quick update for families on the playground. If you're using our after school, after school, please be aware that our after school program does have first access to it. We try and share, but we want to make sure that our students can use the equipment and make sure that everybody stays safe and monitored outside. As Laura mentioned too, we're looking for a parent or two to assist us with our continuous improvement plan. We are doing a work as a school identified as a need of school in need of support. So we do meet each month, and we're looking for either board members or other community members, particularly families, to support us. Our next meeting will be on April 12th at 3 p.m. So we welcome any families that would like to join us for that. In the library. So the leadership team meets each month to review data, plan for support personnel, and then also ways that we can engage more community members and community partners. We have students who are excited about the Reading with Ribby program. We have the Keene Swamp Bats. So we will be organizing a bus from Central that day. So if you are interested, we'll be getting in touch with you about the bus accommodations for that night. It's coming up in June. As Laura mentioned, we have report cards going home on the 15th. That is the day before vacation, so be on the lookout for those. Also, we have April vacation, the 18th to 22nd. And then we have a fun Earth Day project going home family. So be on the lookout that for on the Friday, April 22nd is Earth Day. So it'll be during vacation, and there'll be a nice nature scavenger hunt that the community has organized. We welcomed Heather Marquez today at Central. She and Jen Heidebrink were able to come by. Heather, as mentioned, is our grades 3 to 8 family liaison. We also worked with Jen Heidebrink on our McKinney-Vento homeless needs. So if you have a need for housing or assistance with anything like that, please mention, get in touch with the school, and we'll coordinate you with Jen Heidebrink, or in this case, Heather now Marquez. So thank you and welcome. We also have SBAC beginning next week. We are working some practice times, and 3rd grade and 4th grade will begin their SBAC next week. Just a quick thanking of you, Elisa Albee and family, the Dano family, with the recent passing of Waltz, and we welcome you back when you come back. So, and then the school climate survey was sent out to 3rd and 4th grades for the students this week, but then all the students and families will be taking it as well. So we hope you were able to participate and fill out that survey. That's pretty much about it from Central right now. Any questions or comments?
Any questions?
No, thank you.
I have one, Carrie. On the, you said they apply for the work assignments. Are those then rotated on a monthly basis so that you have different students doing that each month, or?
Yes. So they have to fill out an application form, and then they have to get an endorsement from an adult. Usually it's somebody at the school. And so every day a different student is doing the announcements each day, but then they're, different thing each month, where we have different greeters at the school doors. And the scuff buster will go and take a tennis ball and work with Mr. Sully and try and clean up some of the scuff marks on the floorway. There's the art person who helps out with Mr. P in the art room and just kind of helps clean up and things like that. So the students really enjoy their jobs that they get to apply for.
Okay,
Cool.
great. Sounds like a great program. Thank you for all the update.
Thank you.
So,
Good evening, everyone. Pull my notes up here. So we are now in the 3rd trimester, and our calendar of year-end activities is beginning to fill up. We started our SBAC ELA assessment this past week, and we'll be doing the math assessment tomorrow and Wednesday of this week. Our 5th grade students traveled to Quechee on Friday to visit VINS, the Vermont Institute of Natural Science, as part of their environmental science studies. The focus of VINS is to motivate individuals and communities to care for the environment through education, research, and avian wildlife rehab. While the day started off rainy, the students returned to school excited to share all that they had learned. Our April early release will continue to focus on honing our restorative practices, where we are learning to use communication to build community, as well as further defining our school's discipline matrix for the 2022-23 school year. Students are excited to begin spring sports and are looking forward to a very busy season of games and meets. We had many students coming through the front doors this morning with their baseball, with their bats and their helmets, so they were pretty excited about that. Plans are being made for the annual 8th grade move-up ceremony and activity day. And while many people remark that the school year is winding down, the reality is that it's really winding up. Our enrollment numbers are as follows. Grade 5, we have 47 students. Grade 6, 39. Grade 7, 68. Grade 8, 72, for a total of 226 students. And as from March 1st to March 21st, actually up to today, our annual daily attendance, it should read 196.27 students. So we are very pleased to have a nice attendance rate for our students. I'd be happy to answer any questions any of the board members might have.
questions for Sue?
I had one question. Yeah, hi, Sue. I was just curious. I read in your report you're going to the Instructional Leadership Academy in Burlington, and I was just curious what that is.
Certainly. Yes, the administrative team from the district will be attending 2 days in Burlington, both tomorrow and on Wednesday. This is part of our ongoing work this year in supervision and evaluation, honing our expertise as instructional leaders within our building, and walk through what to look for in classrooms when instruction is happening, how to respond to that, how to appropriately make recommendations to staff. And so we, as an administrative team, have been working on this all year. And so this kind of ties together our work for this year, and we'll be spending 2 days of intensive study on that, both tomorrow and Wednesday.
Thank you.
Welcome.
Any other questions? Yeah,
It's on a different topic, so.
okay. Any other questions? Okay, if not, thank you, Sue. We really appreciate your update. Okay,
Priscilla, could
yes.
I circle back? I received an email from Brittany Gilman from RHR, and she just wanted me to make something very clear about a question that Jiggs had asked and her comment, and she just,
Yeah, I think we're all comfortable with that.
if I may. So she just wanted to make sure that the board didn't have the impression that she was suggesting in any way that there was any kind of fraud. She only pointed out that the audit is not a fraud audit, which is a specific type of audit that's done. And then they do not express an opinion on internal controls in the scope of the audit. So she says, our procedures can and do detect fraud, and we found no indication of fraudulent or nefarious activity. If they had, they would have alerted us immediately and the board. So she simply meant to clarify that a fraud audit would have a different scope and procedure. So, but she just wanted to make sure that that was clear. Sometimes, you know, when they don't give a straight answer, that could come out a little different. So.
I thought that was what she said myself. But,
I think she walked away just wanting to be very clear about that, knowing that the public has access to this and didn't want anyone to think something different. So.
Sort of the CYA. Right. Yeah.
Andy, chat is supposedly on. Can you turn it off, please? It's not supposed to be on.
Oh, sure.
So if I could just interject, that was me. I forgot to include, and just to put out there, so all the WNESU schools are currently enrolling for kindergarten. So we just want to remind families, and we forgot to mention that just now, there is a Google Doc or a paper copy that's sent home with families already. So if your child will be 5 on or before September 1st of 2022, please make sure that they are enrolled in kindergarten for next year. Thank you.
Thank you for adding that. We appreciate that.
We're going to need to check that because it is marked as that no one can participate in chat. I just opened it up and that was already on, so I don't know why that isn't. So.
Okay.
I think Ricky and I are getting to a point where we're thinking like we should just eliminate this and just have it that people have to attend in person. We keep running into problems.
I love to see people in person, but I also understand that, you know, when some people can't, the benefits of at least being able to participate. So, and I hear you, we keep running into slight little glitches, but we'll clear those up as well. Okay. Yeah, I agree with Jiggs. I heard the same thing during the audit, so report. So I was comfortable with that, and it is distinctly a different report, is all they were telling us. All right, unfinished business for action. These policies, because we got into finalizing the year and starting the other, did not get approved. They were approved at the supervisory union level back in February, beginning of February, I believe. So there's B3, B4, B8, C1, C3, C4, C5.
I move approval of policies B3, B4, B8, C1, C3, C4, and C5.
Thank you, Jigs, for that motion. Any questions from the board
I
members?
just have a procedural, so
Yes.
have they, it's a two-step process. You warn them for approval, and then a certain number of days later, the board
Yeah,
approves. Has that been done?
Yeah, there's 10 days that they have to be posted, and they have been posted. And we talked about that back in, maybe February, and then they didn't get put on here. There's another set too, but we felt that that was a lot for everybody to review for this one, and there's one other set that needs to get approved as well.
Well, what I remembered was first
And
you
it's
warn them.
changed
first
some,
have
and
it-
it's been changed, the procedure's changed slightly. The procedure now is only, you need to warn it for 10 days to give the public access and approval rights, and so that they can make comments and come in and be familiar with that, and then you can approve it. And so that's what we're going to do. Yeah, it was changed by the state,
Yeah.
so
Thanks for the information.
you're welcome. Okay, so any questions on any of those? I know they were sent to you. Okay, let's just round robin. Jigs, how do you vote?
Yay.
Bill? Megan? Yes. Okay, so that's unanimous, and those have been approved. All right, next thing is masking update, basically COVID, anything that you needed to do, because I know at the last meeting, we ended with that new information was coming out the next day after our meeting, so. As
So
well,
much has
so.
changed since then. So we're at a point where masking is optional. And, if any individual feels like they want to wear a mask for any reason, I mean, just as like Carrie was talking about with, just the stomach bug going around, I mean, but we put out a new procedure on how we would handle any symptomatic students or staff in the building, based on the recommendation from the Department of Health. And so that's kind of where we are at this point, so.
And that's going,
We haven't had, to my knowledge, we haven't had a lot of pushback one way or the other. I've been in most of the buildings where some people have masks on, just like here, some people have masks on, some people don't. And, some kids are excited about not having masks on, some kids want to wear their masks. So, there's a no judgment zone, so I guess that's Planet Fitness, but we'll steal it, how's that?
everybody's at a different point, so, yeah. As long as people are made to feel comfortable and that we're doing our job to make them feel comfortable, I think.
Yeah, I went out and got my 4th booster this weekend, so,
Yeah, those are out there and available. I guess it's
that means I'm over
4
50
months
now.
after your other booster,
Yeah.
at least, that they're saying, which is a shorter time frame than it was 8 months after the 2 shots, and then now it's.
Yeah, the pharmacist actually told me that they've already, they're going to recommend a booster in the fall.
In the
So,
fall.
with along with your flu shot, so.
Yeah, probably
So,
maybe an annual thing,
Yeah.
because,
so,
it's in the same category as a flu that, you need to get those, because it's not not like long-term like measles or polio, or those that we did. And with polio, we got eradicated, but we're not going to eradicate this.
I will add, I'm sorry, because I was at a meeting on Thursday that the secretary was at. There have been a couple districts who have made choices to go back to mandated masking within the buildings. Those were board decisions based on following CDC recommendations as opposed to the state recommendations. So, which there is a difference between those two. So, but.
Right, and ours was to follow the state guidelines, so if there is a problem at any time with that, we would expect that you would bring that to us, and then we can look at that. Appreciate that. Okay, any questions on that? All right, new business for discussion and action, voluntary addition of SLPA, speech language pathology assistant, and CODA, certified occupational therapy assistant, to the existing support staff bargaining unit. Any questions on that?
What does it mean?
It's simply, Andy, I'll let you.
Okay, so we got a request, the speech language pathologist assistants and the certified occupational therapy assistants currently are at-will employees. And so they have requested to be represented by the WNEA through collective bargaining. And so they sent me a letter saying that we could voluntarily, the boards can voluntarily accept them into, allow the WNEA to bargain on their behalf, or that it would go to the labor board and there will be a vote. And so it all happened at the exact same time. I got all the letters at the same time, so it's already moved to the labor board. It will be voted by the members. There's 6 members between SLPAs and CODAs. And so they will, the vote will happen by the end of April. If the boards choose to accept them into voluntarily, the vote would not happen. I mean, it's more procedural than anything. It could have some impact on, we're trying to start negotiations. So, I mean, those negotiations are supposed to happen, I think we said the 27th. The vote here is the 28th. So it's not going to be a big impact, but if they are voted in, then they would be part of, it would be a subset of that staff agreement.
Chris?
I have quite a bit of background about these positions. I suggest we discuss this in executive session.
Okay.
As a.
It's a contract.
It's a contract, absolutely, it's a contract matter, and it's a significant one.
Okay.
You know, without saying one way or the other, but there's quite a bit to this that board members should be aware of, you know, when they're making that decision.
How many positions?
6
are
people.
There's 6 people?
6, yes.
And where are they, are the SU employees?
They're SU employees.
Okay.
All
right, so we will definitely consider that when we go to executive session. The teacher roster approval, is that something that we also want to put into executive session?
Yeah.
Probably, okay. And the next thing on there then is board retreat ideas. I put that on there for you to think about, and, you know, if you have any ideas that you want to share at this time. We haven't had one. We used to be that we had one once a year, usually in no later than June, so that new members could, you know, become familiar with all different kinds of things that the board does, and meet with other boards. It's usually done supervisory union wide, so that we get to meet other boards as well. And I know it's something the SU is pushing for too, so putting it on there.
I'm not a big fan of.
You're not a good fan of it, okay?
And
I'm with him.
You're with him?
Yeah.
Okay.
And I will participate if one is held.
You would participate if they have one, is what you're saying? Okay. It's one thing I know they've been talking about, so Intel was a good thing. We used to do it at the Saxons River Inn, but with the Saxons River Inn being closed, I don't know what other, you know, places there would be. Possibly Vermont Academy, they have a big room there. We've done one there before too.
What we used to do, I mean, we kind of went from private venues to more public ones over the course of time, because the public really can't participate, since they're all open meetings, which also makes it a little awkward, because how do you have a retreat when everything is open? But it's okay. But anyway, we went to more, not very exciting settings, but at least places where the public could come. And it's one of those things.
It's actually a training, since it can be a training type session. And I think as a training type session, you have parts of it that can be closed, but because when we did do a online training a couple of years ago, and parts of that we were told could be more of an executive session. So it depends on what parts you're covering and what you're doing.
I'm not in favor of having a closed meeting, just for the record. I mean, there's very little boards talk about that isn't public business, you know, so.
You're absolutely right.
The other thing I would add is I'm all for having some kind of a program for new board orientation. I think that's worthwhile, but I certainly don't want to sit through it again, you know, or, you know, I've got a graduate degree in that. So, so I think, I don't want to confuse the issue of a new board member wanting to get some training or exposure or whatever, you know, otherwise you're just thrust right into the mix type of thing.
Although all of us can probably use an update on some things, so, and
Well,
things
you're
can
never too old
change,
to learn.
you know, so, and we can help other members understand, so, any of that's helpful. Okay, so if you have any ideas on that and you want to just send me ideas as well, that would be great. All right, let's do director's comments, and then we'll do executive session after that. Jigs, I'll start with you.
I knew there was something in the minutes that I detected, but, and this is on the organization meeting, the appoint truant officer, and it's listed as Denise Buckley. I thought it was Thaddeus Buckley.
Yeah.
So I should have done it at the time. Anyway. Other than that, I'm good.
Oh, let's see, how to correct, right? That would be amended. I don't think there's a specific procedure to amend since we've already approved them. Let me look it up. Repeat 12. So we do it right.
Can we just have Thaddeus change his name to Denise?
That's an idea. I like it. Okay.
Just swallowing Bella's balls, please.
I'm not sure that it really needs to be changed, I mean, as long as we kind of noted that
Just
there's
note
an
that
error
it's there, and, yeah, after approval. Correction before approval reading and after approval reading. 48:15, let's see what it says. Okay, so let's just have a motion to amend it to Thaddeus, that'll make it easy.
I'm going to move that we amend the minutes of the March 7th meeting to indicate Thaddeus Buckley as the truant officer.
Okay, and everybody in favor?
Aye.
Okay, so that's all taken care of, thank you. Thanks for finding that, though, because that's, you probably would like us to be correct. All right. Did you have anything else under director's comments, Jigs?
No, I'm good.
Okay, Bill?
All set, thank you.
Okay, Megan?
I'm good.
And Chris?
No, I will, I want to reiterate the principles, kindergarten registration. Don't, if you know of somebody who has a child who's going to be kindergarten age this fall, you're a grandparent, you're a friend, it's your neighbor, don't presume that they're going to get the families are gonna get these things from the school, because they don't always get there, but, so you can always call the school offices, and the school secretaries are happy to help you out or you can call the SU.
Yep, definitely, yeah,
You can do that.
thank you.
It's good, it's great to get kids involved early on in the kindergarten registration, because the schools have events and, and it really starts building that community. And it's a lot nicer to sort of start it in the spring than to kind of get in at the tag end right before school.
And I think, Andy, can you give any light on the registration process, or I think, I know this
I don't want
is
to
the director's comments.
No,
but-
I mean, we talked about it today, and I just don't have it in my head right now. I will make sure we get some stuff posted on the website this
Okay,
week
great.
for folks. I do apologize, I just don't have it. I don't want to give a wrong date or
Okay.
information.
No, that's fine. This is director's comments, and I just kind of deviated from that. I apologize. I would say just, I do enjoy working with the board members here, and I would encourage our parents, our teachers, our staff, all of our community members to remember to do something kind for somebody, because that goes a long way. And right now, recovering from COVID, we're all needing that. I've seen that helping a great deal of people in the last few weeks, and that things are starting to hopefully come back to that level of consideration and kindness that we need in our communities. Thank you. I would entertain a motion to go into executive session for the purposes of discussing contracts and personnel issues, where any premature public knowledge could place the individual and/or the board at a disadvantage.
So moved.
Okay, Chris moved that the board enter into executive session for the purpose of discussing negotiations, discussing contracts and a personnel issue where any premature public knowledge could place the individual and/or the board at a disadvantage. All those in favor?
Aye.
Before we do a motion or anything, I would also like to mention Walt Albee, and that all of us as a board send our condolences and our prayers for that family.
He was a classmate of mine here,
Was he?
Ellis Falls High.
Yeah, one of our bus drivers too, and parent of one of our teachers, and just really big ties to our community. Okay, thank you.
Sure.
So I move to approve the Rockingham teacher roster for the 2022-23 school year as corrected by the superintendent.
Second.
Okay, I think we can just vote. Everybody in favor, or those that are?
Yeah.
Aye. Okay, anybody opposed? Okay, so that passes. Date and location and time of the next meeting is April 18th at 5:30. If we
I will
end up
be out
not
of
needing
town.
that, then we will cancel that meeting. We have some board members that may be out of town, and we may end up not having that, but it's on there in case we need it. We did this as our primary meeting for that very reason. So if not, it'll be the first Monday in May. Okay, all right.
Move to adjourn?
Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, the meeting is adjourned.
7:51.
7:51.